Paranormal. Para X. The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Merry meet and merry part, bright the cheeks and warm the heart. For tread the circle thrice about, to keep unwelcome spirits out. Bide within the law you must, in perfect love and perfect trust. Mind the threefold laws you should, 3 times bad and 3 times good. These 8 words the read fulfill, and ye harm none, do what ye will.
Welcome to Stirring the Cauldron. Now, here's your host, Marla Brooks.
Hey, Merry Meet everybody, and welcome. Tonight we're going to delve into the world of the Green Witch's Guide to Magical Plants and Flowers with the authors of the book, Chris Young and Susan Ottaviano. I think I got it.
Great.
Chris believes that all plants are magical, and he's a lifelong gardener whose acclaimed garden, Tiny Sur, is a certified wildlife habitat. Oh my God, that's neat. His garden writing has been featured in such publications as West Coast Magazine, Country Living, and LA Parent. Susan is an artist, performer, and songwriter. Her career has taken her from the recording studios as the lead singer for the band Book of Love to the photo studio as a food stylist for clients like Bon Appetit and Grey Goose. People that are not in the chat room, welcome and come over and join us, because if you're listening live, you can ask questions for Susan and Chris during the show. And we're at paraxradionetwork.com. And I'm thrilled to have Chris and Susan on because the book is so good. So
we're so
both
glad
of you,
to be here. Thank you.
Welcome. A little backstory is always a good place to start. You've been friends for a very long time. So how did your friendship evolve into Two Green Witches?
I think it really comes from just as we got to, because I actually got to know Susan through her band Book of Love years and years ago. And then as we became friends, we started realizing we had a lot of the same interests. And one of our big interests is nature. And we sort of were trying to figure out, and I was really into green witchcraft, and I kind of got Susan into it. And then we were like, what could we do with our, with what we do? And Susan's such a beautiful illustrator.
We wanted to combine our talents. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And it kind of evolved into this book.
And I think it's really magical how it evolved, because it was really, we just had a talk, and we'd have always been saying that, why don't we do a project together? How can we combine our talents? What could we do together? And when we think about something that's magical, it just really evolved. It just sort of opened up, and it just became, it grew a life of its own. And
yeah,
I guess we've been working on it
very organically.
Yeah. I mean, we think that it was 2017 we started working on it.
Really? That's a long time.
It's called the pandemic that kind of got in the way.
Kind of a COVID project.
It's the best way to do it, out of necessity, but it was something that would have been probably more difficult to do if you weren't, stuck around and had to stay home and do all that good stuff. A lot of people got a lot of work done.
It was a little idea, Chris. What were we going to do? Just have 26 illustrations and just have maybe a little incantation for each plant.
Simple.
Was that our idea originally?
Yeah, just some couplets for each plant, and that be it. Just a illustrated magical plant guide. But then we started getting more into the things that we were into, and we were like, why don't we add that? Why don't we add Greek mythology? Why don't we add, how to plant them and all that sort of thing?
Yeah, and we're going to get into some of that, because it's so comprehensive, but not difficult, if that makes sense, you know?
Absolutely.
I'm glad.
It's very relatable, you know?
It actually is. Just got a quick question from the chat room. What is green witchcraft?
You want to take that, Chris?
Yeah, basically, it's when you embrace a full love of nature. It's about the connection to the earth and the universe and drawing power from everything in nature. And it's a personal craft. It's something that is generally done on one's own. It's not kind of a coven sort of thing. So I kind of do my thing and Susan sort of does her thing, and we share spells with each other and stuff, but we don't do them together like you would think of traditional witches. And it's based around magical herbalism, which is basically the idea that all plants have magical properties. And I highly recommend, if you want to kind of dive into it, there's a Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. Mm-hmm. That is literally my Bible. And so that's the thing, and it's about using nature for positive. It's all about positive intentions and good intentions.
Mm-hmm. Now, the book includes 26 love spells from apples to zinnias. Why did you choose love spells as opposed to any other kind?
Because we love love.
I think we were we're interested in other things like protection and wealth and different kinds of things, but I think we were drawn to love, and we thought that we'd explore that for this. We'd focus this book on that.
Yeah, because we wanted the book to be super positive. I'm glad that you noticed that it has a light touch to it, and we thought what would be better than to give people some tools to bring more love into their lives.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's so much there. I mean, and it's important to note that the recipes in this book are all natural, they're cruelty-free, and 100% vegan. So that's good to get that out there.
We didn't want anything to suffer for our magic.
And we're also thinking about, all kinds of love besides romantic love,
right.
Self-love, friendship, relating to people, and
cat love.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And there's a comment in the chat room because she has read your book, and she said this is a great book. It has that hope and peacefulness of the 1960s.
Well, that's nice.
Oh, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
There you go.
That's perfect. That's just perfect. Thank you.
I'd like to know how they read our book exactly, since it's not available yet. But
I gave her a little peak. I gave her a
little peek.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad she liked it.
Yeah. Okay, so also, in nature, there's so many plants and flowers.
It does have a retro vibe. I'm sorry I interrupted, but
that's fine.
What the person said. It has a real retro vibe. So, in the illustrations and a lot of our thoughts and musings.
Yeah. And feel free to interrupt anytime, please. Really, I'm serious.
Oh, yeah, no, sorry.
No, I'm saying feel free to. Because,
do.
You know more than I do about this, in a sense. But how did you narrow down the list to 26 plants? I mean, there's so many to choose from. Yeah,
I know. It was so hard. I mean, my first thought was, okay, how can I do this alphabetically? Because I know there's going to be some troubling letters that may not necessarily have flowers. But I found something for every letter, and then I kind of decided, well, what do I love the most of all the plants that are there, and then what plants have love properties and love powers. So that's kind of how I based it. I would refer to my Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Herbs and double check it and see, okay, can I use this plant? Yes.
And Chris, I think that's how we started the book. You came up and you said, I have 26. We started it with you finding the 26 flowers.
Yeah, which I was just so excited about.
Yeah.
It was such an accomplishment.
Well, my hat's off to you.
You know how much torture you would be in for.
Yeah, little did I know that it was just the tip of the iceberg.
That was just the first text you would be sending me.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that kind of like life lessons? You start out with good intentions, and all of a sudden,
no,
what have I gotten into?
Is a little magical with this because it became an important thing for us. We just started it out as a little idea, and it's kind of the best way to do something. You know, it wasn't like, okay, this is this project we have to do. It grew because it was great, I think. You know, it's sort of, we feel like this book is a little charmed, you know? For us, it's sort of just it was very organic.
It just have that vibe, and charm is a good word to use for it. It was meant to be, basically, you know. Maybe you didn't know it at the time.
Everything. I don't feel like everything I do is charmed. You know what I mean?
It was a nice feeling to have something like that just take off, and we had so much support. I think between friends and people in the industry that we would kind of reach out to just for informational, you know, talks, and everybody was so into it and so encouraging that it kept us going.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of the things that we're talking about charm is it's a good time to talk about the illustrations, Susan. This isn't the regular book with illustrations here and there, you know, basic illustrations. I mean, each page is colorful. There's not a white page in the whole book, I think. Maybe there was a little ecru color, but never white, I don't think. The whole book is bright and cheerful. And I really wish people could see them right now. Did you start out, Susan, with a certain vision in mind, or did you just let your muse carry on?
I would say a little of both. I mean, we had an idea that we wanted to create this magic little jewel box that somebody would keep by their bedside, you know, like our little grimoire, but just that it's this favorite possession. You know, not even a coffee table book, a bedside table book that you would refer to, and you know, we're going to have a ribbon in it, and it was something that we would treasure. That's the word. And then it just sort of grew from there that we wanted to do, you know, painting the flowers, which is something I always loved doing, and then it became more conceptual, and it sort of just kind of, like I said, took on a life of its own.
And Susan's work really did evolve. Like she was doing different things. Like there were some, you know, pencil drawings in there at some point, and it really did grow into what it is now, which I think is amazing.
Probably because we had the time. Thanks, Chris. Because we had the time, because we did it like, you know, we showed it to people, and it kept kind of changing, and we had the time to change it from how it started. You know, and the original, you know, versions, I can't even imagine what that was. Chris, do you remember, like, at the beginning what we even had?
I think it was more graphic looking. I think it looked a little more graphic and less charming.
But it was just a joy to work on. I have to say, it's one of my favorite things that I've ever done. I loved, you know, the process.
And it's not that you're just doing the pictures of the plants. You've also got different things going along with there. You know, some of it is whimsical, you know. Some of it is just really, really pretty and eye-catching. So, I mean, I
like that we have This Book Belongs To page. I love that so much.
Oh, great.
It reminds me of, like, my childhood books, you know, the golden books kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
We sort of did envision it being, it's like a children's book for adults. You know, it's like, that's the way it's sort of fully illustrated. But I think the illustrations and Chris' words really, like, work together and really complement. His writing is also whimsical, and I don't know, we work separately, but I feel like everything really matches very magically.
Yeah. You're using a lot of primary colors. You know, there are people that do everything in pastel, and that's very nice and sweet and light, but primary colors are really good. I mean, they catch your eye, and
I think that, you know, the meaning behind them is more intense.
Yeah.
Well, it's bold. I would say they're bold and painterly. They're not watercolors and timid.
No, it's not timid. Both of us, yeah. It's very, very cool. Now, let's talk about some of the plants, because we were talking about this right before we got on the air, and we can pick up where we left off, but some are very familiar to people. I've got a lot of them in my garden, but we were talking about one that's native to California called the Indian paintbrush, and shame on me, I've lived here all my life, and I didn't know what it was, but so they're very, very prolific. I mean, where do they find in a field or on the...
Yeah, you might see them right now with all the super bloom that's happening in California right now.
Yeah.
From our torrential months and months and months of rain. Congratulations for surviving it, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, you tend to find them. You don't see them in seed packets. You don't see them in the industry trade. They're kind of like, it's a real clue to what kind of a plant nerd I am that I included them. And I had taken a native plant course at UCLA several years ago, and that's where I discovered them. So yeah, I'm a total nerd. I'm a total plant nerd.
Love
so
that.
you'll find Indian paintbrush popping up in the collection, and who knew it has magical powers?
Well, I'd like to find.
Have you been able to grow it, Chris?
I have grown it. I don't have anything right now because it's not an easy plant. Like I said earlier, it's a I'm spacing on the word, but where it sort of mooches off of another plant. It's without killing it, so it needs a host. It needs a host plant, kind of like an orchid, has a tree as a host plant.
Well, if you ever find another one, call me. I want a piece of it.
Yeah. You know where you might find it, since you're a local Southern Californian, you might find it at a Theodore Payne Foundation.
Where's that?
Have you heard of them? It's in Sun Valley. It's like on the far side of the valley.
Right.
And I highly recommend it to everybody because they have an online business and they sell seeds. So if you want to get great California native seeds, Theodore Payne Foundation is the way to go.
Oh wow,
Payne?
thanks.
Theodore Payne, P-A-I-N-E?
P-A-Y-N-E.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've seen that in your notes.
Yeah. That's a good place to start. All right. So let's get into delve a little bit more into the book. It transforms everyday ingredients into things like bath salts and herbal infusions and sachets and tinctures, and the list goes on. But the book starts out with essentials for baking, gardening tools, tea essentials, and throughout the book, there are amazingly wonderful tips, hints, magical properties of each plant, bits of wisdom for each ingredient. And I really particularly like the "Did you know" blurb at the end of each chapter.
Oh,
I mean, it gives the reader such a good insight into a bit of trivia. And, it's like asking a child for your favorite child, or for you, your favorite plant. But both of you, do you have a special plant that you made sure got added to the book?
Oh, boy.
Roses?
Roses,
I would say roses,
yeah. I would say roses too. Roses is a big one because especially when we realized we were doing a love book, there's no better plant than a rose for love magic. And plus, my inner old lady just loves them.
Well, I love them too. Years ago, I got my first rose. We used to have roses all the time, but bare root rose. Somebody gave me a bare root, and I looked at it. It scared the heck out of me because I thought, I'm going to kill this plant.
What do I do with this?
Stick it in the ground and pray, And
exactly.
it slowly got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Oh.
It is humongous now over the years.
Oh.
And it's like, it's really, it has lots, and it's a floribunda, so it has lots and lots of blooms. And it was just kind of amazing that, something I did not kill. This is good.
Yeah, well, and roses, I mean, I don't think roses get enough cred for how hardy they are. I mean, now that rose is established in your garden, it's golden. You'll never have a problem.
Yeah, we used to have, where I grew up, there were a lot of heirloom roses that had been there for, 1,000 years.
That's amazing.
With those amazing smells.
Oh, yeah, and little cabbages. Well, big cabbages sometimes.
Cabbage roses. Aren't those
gorgeous?
The best?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm a sucker especially for apricot roses. I love an apricot rose.
Yeah. Uh-huh. It's such a beautiful color.
Yeah.
Let me just see something here. So talk about how you came up with your "Did You Know" blurb. I mean, did you go digging around? Did it just pop into your head? You might have had it.
That's me being a nerd again. Like, I was an English lit major, so I really, research was like a big part of my studies. So it's my natural inclination. Like, I'm less likely to read a novel than I am to read a book that's like an index of information, or, a flower guide, or a seed book, or a magic book. Like, I just love studying things like that. So, for me, it was such a fun thing to go in and be like, oh yeah, when apples are sliced laterally, the seeds form a pentagram. That's so cool.
Yeah, it was.
I also think a big
and
part
people
for me
charted the stars.
Mm.
Go ahead, Susan.
No, I was just saying that the Greek mythology has always been like a big thing for me, and I think that Chris has felt the same. So all that kind of history and mythology is part of the "Did You Know?" And I find that like so interesting. It really makes it the kind of book that I would want to read.
Yeah, and it makes it more interesting, and like the hints also, they just come out of nowhere, and everything is so simple to understand. It's not like you're preaching. It's not like reading a textbook. It's like you want to turn the next page because there's something wonderful there. And
I'm glad that you pointed out the simple, because we really wanted to make it not overwhelming and not intimidating, and stuff that you could do, with stuff that's in your kitchen and in your fridge, or, we wanted to make it as simple as possible so people felt empowered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's simple, but you just want more. You just can't get enough of it, in a sense. And
I love that.
Yeah, and you've got your magical properties of each plant, and the bits of wisdom are just, I don't know, I can't explain how interesting all these things were. And then let's talk about tea essentials. Let me jump over there. Because, okay, we know baking essentials, gardening tools. Okay, tea essentials. Talk about that, please.
Well, it looks like we have, I think we have about 10 teas in the book, because we can use, some of them we have tea recipes, and some of them are just simple infusions, and one's an astringent. But, tea's a really big part of the practice for us, with teas that are more healing, and teas that, some for headaches, and some for mostly just, for relaxation, especially lavender and catmint and things like that. I think the relaxing, we haven't talked about magical mindfulness yet, but that's sort of our little, what would you call it, Chris? Our kind of
mantra, our mantra.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
About things that relax or meditative.
And what better way? If you want to ingest the powers of an herb, well, what would be better than having a rose tea? It's just, and it's simple. All you need are the petals, either fresh or dried, some hot water, and you're good to go.
Well, I've got somebody coming in, I think next month, who wrote a book called Tea Magic.
I love that.
And it's going to be really interesting. I haven't read it yet, but It seems like, when people talk about, which is, what do you have for breakfast, or, whatever, we always have tea. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why, but it's like it's written on our foreheads or something that people, just assume that we have tea and toast or tea and hemlock or whatever Yeah,
right, exactly.
And then when I got this
book,
we
do.
I know, and yeah, maybe that's part of the gardening thing too.
Yeah, I think so.
But I also want to mention, and I think this is important because there are people who are listening who aren't practitioners, aren't witches, and you don't have to be one. Anybody can do these things in your book.
Anybody can do this. There's no like swearing in or anything. There's no secret handshake that makes you a witch.
And they won't find a black hat in their closet either. I mean, yeah. Because some people are afraid when you talk about witchcraft, they say, well, that's only for them. Or if I do a spell, I'm going to turn into a witch,
Right. Or it's scary somehow. And I feel like there's nothing scary about green witchcraft at all.
Mm-mm.
Absolutely.
Well, witches in general, I can't say for all witches. Some of them are real scary, but for the most part.
I guess if that's your thing.
Yeah, we're benevolent and, we do good. And it's, earth-based kind of religion kind of thing, and it works well. So, and when, we're going to take a break in a couple of minutes, but we're going to talk about the spells, and they're not probably what people think they are. I don't want to give it all away, but I mean, people that go to my website and check out my spell of the week, I kind of just do the spells with the incantations. I mean, nobody's opening a circle or anything, but yours are different in some ways, and I like the fact that some of the stuff that you write rhymes. Because I always do my incantations in rhyme. I don't know why.
It's more fun because it's more fun.
Well, we grew up with Bewitched, I think, and it probably rubbed off.
Well, we want to also say that witches can be original and creative and sort of be their own person. You know what I mean? Kind of come up with their own
rules.
Brand. Yeah.
Yeah. No. The only rule is only use organic plants in your spells because you don't want to get sick.
Mm-hmm. And there are things that, they need to learn about plants because sometimes they ingest something that could make them sick,
Yeah, the rules are know your plants and know that they're pesticide free. And then that's about it.
Yeah, and growing your own, and
it's the best.
I mean, you don't have to grow from seed, but, people talk about plant spirits, and I believe they do have them.
Well, there's that saying that you get something out of gardening. It's like an energy exchange. I know that when I garden, I always feel like revved up afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do. I mean, you're not alone out there. And then I've got, everybody knows, and they're probably sick of hearing this, lizards all over the yard. And
me too.
They're the guardians. I swear.
I love the lizards.
Yeah, the baby ones are out now, and they're only like, an inch or two, and you got to watch out where you step. They're quick, though.
Oh, do you have the fuzzy caterpillars, the black fuzzy caterpillars?
No, I wish
we have those right now, so I really have to watch out where I'm walking.
Oh, I don't think I've ever seen a caterpillar here. Worms, yeah, no caterpillars.
Oh.
Yeah,
so we'll have to get you some milkweed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we got butterfly bushes, and there are.
There you go.
But this year we haven't seen. Last year we had a ton of monarch butterflies around.
Oh yeah. Well, apparently the good news is they're finally making a comeback.
Oh, good.
So, and I think it's backyard gardeners that have done it.
Mm-hmm.
I really do.
I haven't seen any yet, but I'm loaded down with hummingbirds. That's a good thing.
That's excellent. Yeah, that's a good sign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so something comes back. I actually, just because I'm just getting us into the break, but this year I decided that I wanted to free some ladybugs, so they could take care of the garden. And I've done that before. So this time I, go to Home Depot, I get my ladybugs and I get in there and I'm saying, you guys, you're going to have so much fun, blah, 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 right? I open them up.
You can do this.
Yeah, I open it up and they all flew away.
Oh, do you know what the trick is? I have a little trick for you.
Oh, yeah? What?
You release them in the evening and you spray the plants with water so the water's wet, and they're super thirsty because they've been in that container. And because it's evening, they're going to go to sleep. So they'll drink and go to sleep, and then they're more likely to hang around.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That should work. All right. Okay.
Some of my nerd power.
I like that nerd power. I'm going to pick your nerd brain here. But it's time for a quick break. So all of you that are listening can unroot yourselves just long enough to grab a quick nibble or something, or water yourself. And we'll be back in 2 minutes.
There's more Stirring the Cauldron with Marla Brooks right after these important messages.
I was in the hospital with my son for 18 months.
When he got injured, I wasn't prepared, but I knew I had to be strong.
When I was told about John's injury, I was in complete shock. I just remember rushing into his room and giving him a big hug and letting him know I was there.
These veterans and families are just a few of the heroes we serve at Homes for Our Troops. For thousands of severely injured veterans, everyday life is filled with barriers.
It was really the little things throughout the house. Counters that you can't roll up to. I had to drag my wheelchair down steps.
I want to help, but he is so determined.
At Homes for Our Troops, we build specially adapted custom homes with features like wheelchair access, roll-in showers, and automatic door openers that allow them to function independently and focus on their recovery and family.
This house is freedom. It's hope. It's a new beginning.
This house has given me my family back.
To learn more, visit hfotusa.org.
Throughout time, events have occurred that have shaped human history. Spirit voices from the past have many stories to tell, and for the past several years, channelers Barry and Connie Strom have been conducting live channeling sessions and relaying those stories and messages from those on the other side. We invite you to tune in to Barry and Connie's new show, Channeling History, on the Para X Radio Network, every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, as they relay the messages of those voices from the past, the ones who have witnessed history firsthand, and those who have made history themselves.
Hey everyone, it's Marla. If you like tonight's episode of Stirring the Cauldron and the archive podcast as well, take a look at the show's YouTube channel and check out the dozens of shows that are there just waiting to be heard. New shows are added each week, and while you're there, why not subscribe? It's free. And if you click on that tiny little bell icon at the top of the page, you'll be notified when new shows are available. Just go to youtube.com and then type in Stirring the Cauldron Para X and the link will appear. Just like magic.
Welcome back to Stirring the Cauldron. Once again, here's your host, Marla Brooks.
And we're back with Chris Young and Susan Ottaviano. Ottaviano. I knew that was going to happen, but that's all right. I did it once right, and that's good. And we're talking about their new book, The Green Witch's Guide to Magical Plants and Flowers. Someone in the chat room wants to pick your brain and ask you what plants are best to help with the feeling of contentment, like in a relationship kind of thing.
Well, actually, that's funny. I was just thinking about one yesterday. It is meadowsweet.
Oh, that's what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, you knew it. Meadowsweet is one you can get either, the flowers, or you can get dried flowers online. And you sprinkle them around the room, your bedroom, or wherever in the house, and it keeps relations in a nice place. The same is true of roses. If you always see rose petals scattered on the fancy hotel bed. Well, there's something to that because scattering roses around also kind of keeps the romance going.
We have a great meadowsweet and mint tea recipe too in the book.
Oh yeah.
There are some really good recipes in the book, and we'll talk about those too. But at the beginning of the book, you offer 10 ways to begin a magical journey. And since we don't have enough time to run through them all, what advice do you give off the top of your heads that will get someone started on this journey?
I would say, I'll start it. The quickest way, well, obviously one of the things is to fall in love with the grimoire. Just having the book and really just enjoying it. Don't get it and feel like, oh, I've got to make this orange cake and I've got to do this and I've got to do that. Like Susan was saying, have it by your bed before you go to sleep. It's just beautiful imagery for your mind, and just kind of get yourself into the idea of things, and then start doing some of the things that it says, like, it's next to your book. So basically kind of dream on it. Dream about, like, try to imagine before you go to sleep a flower that you love and what would be a spell that you would want to do with that flower, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I would start.
Susan, you have something to add to that?
Well, I guess what we're saying, sort of what Chris is saying, dream on it, take a bath, just start ways that you can get in touch with your senses. It's sort of a sensory experience.
Yeah, and creating rituals, like Susan was saying, with the bath, and put some jasmine in your tub, or put some lavender in your tub. It can just be the fresh herbs that you put in the tub, and light some candles. And that's what we call magical mindfulness. It's magic that you're creating because you're using the powers of the plants, but you're also doing something that's very meditative and very ritualistic for yourself. That's just naturally calming.
Mm-hmm. And jasmine, I don't know if you have any, but mine exploded. Oh my God, this year. They're falling over each other. I could, if we had 1,000 baths to use in that with jasmine, we'd have.
Well, you know what? I have a little tip for you. That I just learned this recently, and I've been living with jasmine for ages now, not just only appreciating the smell, not knowing there's more to be done. Mm-hmm. But if you go out and grab a handful of blossoms,
mm-hmm.
put them in water in a pitcher, and then chill that overnight, and then strain it the next morning, and the jasmine water you will have will be the most delicious thing you've ever had.
Oh wow! Well, I love jasmine tea, so it's
it's like drinking like an iced jasmine tea, but it's even stronger than the tea, I think.
Is it for all jasmines? Because I've got pink jasmine as opposed to star
pink jasmine is the best. Pink jasmine is the best, but all jasmine works. As long as you haven't used any pesticides or anything on it.
Okay, no, cool. So each ingredient in the book has its own spell, but you also include a how to break a love spell as well. And I think that's necessary because I've had people in a panic get in touch with me and they were desperate to take back a spell that they conjured up.
What have I done? What have I done?
Yeah, so for future reference, can you share that spell with people that may be in need?
Well, one of them is so simple. And it's literally, you'll be surprised by the simplicity of it. It's literally eating pistachios.
What? Really?
Yeah. You eat pistachios and it sort of clears the air.
And what is the nut-free version you had also?
What's that?
Isn't there a nut-free version too that you should suggest?
I'm trying to think of it. What was the other one? Bear with me 1 second, and I'll
while you're thinking, I'll be the devil's advocate here. So if you've done any kind of a spell and then you're hungry and eat pistachios, is it going to take away any spell that you're doing?
It's your intention.
Intent, yes.
Yeah. So if you're eating them, with the express intention of like, this has got to stop, that's the way to go. But like Susan was saying, if you're allergic to nuts, and a lot of people are, you can drink a tea made with wild geranium flowers, and that will also erase a love spell. But again, as you're drinking it, sort of repeat to yourself in your mind, this is it, this is the end, this is over, this spell is now mute.
In geraniums, do they have particular, there's scented geraniums, there's all kinds of geraniums.
You could use a rose-scented geranium, which would be really
rose
nice.
Geraniums are my favorite.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Rose tea.
Yeah, because, there's regals and zonals and, all kinds of them.
Cranesbills.
Yeah, my mom was the president of the International Geranium Society at one point.
No way!
And
That's so
I'm
cool.
like, whoa. So I grew up with geraniums, and I've got tons of them here. And now I look for the weird ones, the cute ones.
I bet you've got some great ones.
Well, I had more before, but I'm digging around and looking for different types. I'm really in love with regals, though.
You grew up in California?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Oh, so you're used to this gardening. We're so spoiled in California that we can garden year round.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And geraniums are really hardy, and we don't have to bring them in.
So hardy. You don't have to baby them. You don't, just remember to water them every now and then, and they'll just do their thing.
Yeah, I was actually a long time ago going to write a book about them called, some folks call them weeds, because they are that easy to
You've got to do that.
Yeah, well.
You've got it. It's in your blood.
Oh, God, yeah. Geraniums, amongst other things, but yeah, geraniums too.
Dedicate it to your mom.
I should do that, and she'd probably be here hitting me across the head because I didn't learn enough from her. It happens.
Wow.
So there's information for each plant in the book, and so you start out with an explanation about the plant. Then there's the two green witch saith. I like that.
Our little couplets.
Yeah.
That was the root of the book.
Really?
That's our little incantation.
Mm-hmm.
Your little rhyming stuff.
That was the very first thing that happened after the alphabetical A to Z.
Well, then you got off to a really good start because they're very good. And again, you have the plant's magical properties because, I'm always looking to see the properties of certain things when I'm doing it. And it's good to know that there's at least 26 of them in there. And again, a green thumb hint, a love spell, and, did you know the whole thing? We said that already. But I just can't say enough about how much interesting things are for just one little plant. And it's so really good. So let's also talk about spells. The spells, because like I said, some of them are very simple. Some of them, you have a jar spell, you have a candle spell. And some, I've noticed that some of the plants have recipes instead of spells, and some have both spells and recipes.
Yeah. We sort of just did what we wanted.
It was your book. Yeah.
Well, based on the
we
fact
literally did the book that we liked.
Right. And I think that for some, there was a lot of information about it, and we wanted to do a spell and a recipe and a tip, just based on the information, like what you're saying about the did you know. There's some interesting things about, certain plants that we have here, and we wanted to do, a little of everything for it.
Yeah. And the spells, some spells are very simple. It's something to do, not gathering all these kinds of things that you need for the spell. It says, carry dried flowers in a sachet or locket to heal a broken heart. And
I'm all about the sachets.
Oh, yeah, they're good.
I love me a sachet.
It's good when they start to kind of fade off the vine. It's good to save them and dry them and
exactly.
Use them.
I'm always sending Susan rose petals from my garden so she can make stuff out of them.
I just made some more soap. I just made some more rose soap. So when you're here, I'll have to give you some more of that.
Yeah, one of my favorite spells that's so simple It's the Let's Have a Baby willow spell.
And
it's if you're wanting to conceive, or even if you want to adopt, it's not limited to, conception on the bed, but you just put a willow branch under your bed. Ta-da! And it brings that energy.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's so all these things are easy. You don't have to open a circle. You don't have to dance in the moonlight. You don't have to wait for a full moon or waning moon. I mean, it's just for everybody, and people that are afraid of turning into a witch, you won't. You're just going to have a lot of good things going here.
Focus
that's
your
what I love about
intention
witchcraft. Yeah,
to achieve a goal. I mean, I think that's what we also want to say. We're sort of free-form witches and that decide, what I'm saying about being original and creative, use these as a foundation to create your own practice, your own craft.
And also,
don't be afraid. What were you saying?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, just not to be afraid, like what you're saying about all these ingredients, and then you have to do it this way. It's sort of, we feel like that you can kind of fly your own Greek flag. You can sort of do your own thing.
Fly your own broom.
Fly your own broomstick and create your own craft.
And also, another thing that Susan reminds me of is, I was talking about the Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs, which I love, but also you don't have to go by that. You do have to know, like you were saying earlier, Marla, you do have to know if a plant is poisonous or not, and you do have to know if a plant has been sprayed. But, like, a lot of times I'll assign magical powers to the plants purely based on my observations. Like, morning glory is one. Like, I like to use morning glory seeds and sachets and lockets and things like that because, to me, they represent tenacity. They're like the ultimate, like, power plant that will reseed, and you can guarantee it, and it's tenacious, and it will just keep going. And so, and if I ever need any extra tenacity added to a spell, I'll throw in some morning glory seeds, but don't eat them. They are poisonous. Do not eat them. You might have a weird trip and then die.
Well, that wouldn't be too good.
Not good. Not good.
Let's talk about.
But I think you're open to their own interpretation. I mean, you could say we're morning glories. Life is short, and seize the moment. So I think that
and, like, face the sun, like, always go to the light.
So that's what I'm saying. We want to encourage people to be creative as opposed to just following, the exact rules. It's just our brand.
Well, it's good that we don't have rules and we don't have dogma. And, we're lucky. We don't, it's not that we don't follow everybody else's rules, but we don't put them on somebody else,
We want people to be inspired by our book.
Yeah. I saw a funny poster in the Henry Miller bookstore, which is up in Big Sur. It said, "Please leave your dogma by the curb." I like that too.
Let's talk. I'm going to talk about some of the plants that you have here because people are thinking it's all flowers and stuff. But you've got fruit like apples and strawberries and oranges. Yeah, orange is the love fruit. Strawberry is the fruit of love, as you say it. And the apple is the tree of love.
Yep.
And, then you've got a tree. You've got elm, willow, so that's it. You've got herbs like parsley and
basil.
Basil, yeah.
Basil, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, did you know that willow, the phrase "knock on wood" is actually referencing? It's an old Gaelic thing. It's not, or Celtic. It's knock on wood comes from knocking on a willow tree.
Oh, is that why it was weeping? Because it got hurt?
Because people keep punching it.
Yeah, poor willow. Yeah, okay.
Poor willow. Why do people have to always hit it?
Yeah, really. Poor thing. There's also a couple of plants that I haven't heard of. where was it? I was just looking at it, and it just kind of ran away, but just let me go down the list and see.
Calico?
No, it was the umbrella magnolia, actually. There we go.
Yeah.
I know magnolia, but what's the difference between magnolia and the umbrella magnolia?
It's just a little bit in the shape of the flower. And by the way, this is a good example. It's umbrella magnolia that I'm using, but any magnolia will work in a spell. It's the same with any plant. Like if the plant includes roses, it could be any color roses, single roses, cabbage roses. It's, so that's how I was able to get a U, Marla.
But the flowers on the petals on the flowers are sort of skinnier and longer than on a regular magnolia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're kind of more petite. It's a very pretty tree.
Yeah, because magnolias are pretty hardy. They don't look like they're going to. Yeah. So, okay, a little bit nicer. But, I jumped up at stuff because there's so many things that I have here. I've got kalanchoe in the yard. We've got some daisies.
Isn't that a great plant?
Yeah. There's so many varieties of it that it's just like, oh, this is really good.
Is that a plant that grows well in California?
It is, because it's really a succulent. It's really kind of a succulent. Really? Yeah. And it just does its thing. Mine don't get a lot of love because I know they don't need it so much, and they just are going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
How often do they bloom?
Kind of. They have a big spurt and then kind of off and on, would you say?
Yeah. Yeah, I've had mine, the big spurt, it's been about a month, and now it's starting to go away. But
sometimes if you trim them back, you can get them to rebloom.
Yeah. They're really easy to do, and really easy. So I'm looking in here, and I'm looking and finding out things about the plants that I have, the roses and all that stuff. So
which isn't that fun? That's what I love about nursery catalogs. I feel like, getting to know you.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah. I've got books and books and books. I'm working on getting an oracle deck of plant spirit. Oracle deck.
Oh,
and so I'm buying all these books on flowers and stuff. And
are you? Because I read in your bio that you did an oracle deck. Because we're thinking of doing one.
Did you already do one too?
The Witch's Oracle deck. Yeah, that was that was the one I did.
I want to see that one. I'll look it up on Amazon.
Yeah, it's there. But we've got way too much to talk about and not enough time. We've got about 5 minutes left. See, I told you it was going to go by fast.
You're right.
See,
you're right.
Witches don't lie.
That's true.
But,
only white lies.
Well, of course, because you're white witches. But we can't get all the questions in. But I think that you should tell everybody where they can find you guys, your books. Just start self-promoting right now.
Susan?
Well, our book is going to be out on June 6th. And you can pre-order it on Amazon right now. And I know you can pre-order it from your local bookstore. We know that it's at Target as well, but it'll be out. It'll be, delivered. I think it's due June 8th. And please follow us at 2 Green Witches. We didn't talk about it.
It's also the number 2. It's the number 2. It's at number 2 Green Witches on Instagram.
And the 2 Green Witches, we didn't really talk about that. Is the name that we've given our partnership.
Okay. Yeah. It just, everything is so good here that it's too bad that we only have 3 more minutes. In the 3, but I wanted you to get in, the stuff where people can find you. But
we'll come back when we do our our oracle deck.
Yes, you should, and we can talk about that off the air.
We're excited.
Clue or
start
two.
Working on that.
Yeah. But we have 2 minutes. Tell us about some of the edible recipes in the book, because the orange cake made me drool.
It's so
good. Great. And we're serving it with violets, edible violets, candied violets that we have a recipe for as well. And we have a vegan chocolate mousse that's great. We have an aphrodisiac dinner at the end of the book where we work with a few things that aren't our plants and flowers. And we like pomegranates and a few other, a pomegranate is called the love apple. So it's another big love fruit.
The chocolate
plant.
mousse recipe is amazing.
It's really good. I made that for you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we have this great we have a great pesto with basil, and we have a parsley herb salad. We just did that. I just did that on a morning show the other day, and it turned out really great. So
that herb salad reminded me, when I looked at the picture real quick, it reminded me of tabbouleh.
Yes, I made it this week with farro as a base. But an herb salad is so delicious, and it's so refreshing, and it takes a little while to clean all the herbs. But to tell you the truth, I've been eating it all week because I spent the time to make it for this show I had to do, and now it's here, and it's it's delicious, really.
Everything
lemony and tart.
Everything in all the recipes really look delicious, and I'm going to gain pounds by trying them out. And I will curse you happily under my breath.
But you'll lose the weight gardening.
Well, hopefully I will anyway. Yeah. I don't know.
But definitely follow us on our Instagram because we're going to do our 10 days of, what do we have? 10 tips from Two Green Witches. We're doing tips every day, 10 days before our launch for our book. And we, like the jasmine water that Chris was talking about, we do little videos on our Instagram, and he did a great video of the jasmine flower, and I've never seen you so excited when you were drinking that. So I know
it's so amazing.
Good. Mother Nature is wonderful. She supplies us with a whole lot of things.
She is the best.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just looking through the book right now for 1 second, because here's these Two Green Witches saith. Fairies make sure Fairies make sure your love is swell when you wear a daisy on your lapel.
Fairies love daisies. So fairies are considered devas, who are the spirits who take care of all the plants.
Yeah.
And they're especially fond of daisies. So if you want some fairy energy into your little love spell, put a daisy on your lapel. Or make a ring of daisies for your head.
Better yet. I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are going to have to go away, unfortunately.
Oh, it was so fun, Marla.
And
thank you so much for having us.
Well,
thank you so much.
Come back. I'm a plant nerd too, and stuff.
You have a new subscriber to your YouTube channel.
Oh, thank you.
I can't wait to hear it all.
Well, thank you for being here, and let's thank all the listeners as well.
Thank you, listeners.
And I'm going to call you guys both and thank you in person, but right now it's just going to say sayonara, blessed be, and merry meet again.
Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Good night from Two Green Witches.
This has been another edition of Stirring the Cauldron with Marla Brooks. Be sure to tune in next week at the same time for another great guest and more fun. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without permission is strictly prohibited. Copyright 2009.
You have been listening to the Para X Radio Network.